Welcome back, you filthy exiles, and we finally have a build update number 1 for my Windblast. Now, we're at about T7 to T8 maps. We just had T8 start dropping. We progressed it through the campaign in about 16 hours, and I will say this, I freaking love Path of Exile 2 at this point. Like, this is the best patch they've ever done to this game, even though there's only been like 3 main key patches. But at the end of the day, this game feels absolutely what we were sort of lining up for at the very start. All the changes made I really like, except for the sword boss in the interludes. That dude is like cray-cray. So if your build's not up to it, you're going to have a bad time. Dead eyes. Anyway, look, there's obviously been some criticisms from other people. I'm here to say, like, I had a pretty fair critique over the game. And to be honest with you, I think the game's fantastic in the current state. So it can only improve from here, obviously, and I think it's going to continually get better, but I think it's on the money. There's good balance of being able to get, like, there's not as much currency dropping, but there's also, like, pretty decent drops, and there's a lot more tools with the Abyss mechanic. The Abyss mechanic I really like. It's a lot of fun to farm. It is challenging. But the overall leveling experience, just like having Act 2, having a 4-link at the end of Act 2, down to Tier 2 support gems dropping so you can get access to everything, is phenomenal. Leveling up was a dream. Germana is still a bad boss fight, but basically all the other bosses after that are fantastic. Anyway, so this is my build. This is my League starter, obviously off my League start plan. Is Armour working? I should think so it is. We invested in, we get to like 75%. I think I have 9,000, nearly 10,000 armor. And with the elemental damage reduction, I definitely feel it. I don't have cap reses. I could even run around with like 10% lightning with enough armor throughout the campaign. And at many times 2%. And I was able to just simply tank elemental damage. So I actually think it works pretty well. That's why I obviously went the Titan, because quite frankly, at the moment, the Titan's going to be the strongest ascendancy. Anyway, talking about this build that I'm running here. So basically, this is Windblast, and we're running it with Armor Explode, Armor Break, Rapid Attacks, and Heft. And we've got to get AoE on this. Tooltips at like 15.4, but it throttles up to about 20 to 23,000 right now. And then we have a switch out for Hammer of the Gods, which right now is pretty undercooked, and we just basically have a pretty crappy hammer in the background here that needs a lot of upgrades done to it. As an overall, this build, as you can see in the B-roll, is just like smashing its way through maps. I don't really worry too much about taking damage. Obviously, you scavenge plating to crank up my armor to the 9s. I don't really use the thorns yet. I don't have a purpose for it, but I'll probably look at that. And this actually gives me some ideas on how I would approach making an auto bomber build, which I think is actually possible now because of the changes to armor. I do use Wind Dancer to proc more armor break. We'll talk about this soon. I actually use it as a defensive mechanic to proc life leech and blind as well, which just makes me more survivable in maps. And that's without running a shield. If I had a shield on this, I would basically be a god. So my next build, I'm probably going to make an auto bomber. So if you want to see that, link in the description. Chuck a comment in the description. Outside of that, basically how we work this, we use a combination of stun days, which they changed on Windblast to basically proc more days moving forwards on hit. And then we use Vaulting Impact as our damage dealer. So basically, leap forward and slam the ground, sending out a shockwave. The shockwave applies broken stance to dazed enemies, causing any hits against those enemies to deal extra damage. Which means Vaulting Impacts is one of the ways that we do an enormous amount of damage on top of our dazed enemies from Windblast. And then obviously we then gain glory stacks up from Windblasting and Vaulting Impacting, and we drop our Hammer of the Gods and just eviscerate enemy health. This will be like our one-hit kill mechanic in the end. We also use a few other synergies here. So Herald of Ash, we use overkill damage from Herald of Ash. And we also use my favorite item, Trample Toes, which I got very early on in the league. I think I paid like 12 chaos for it. These boots are absolutely excellent. Now, there is an elevated version of these boots, which I'd love to find, but right now these are really doing a lot of haul sort of work. Now, other things to bear in mind, most of the gear we have, armor also applies to elemental damage. To get broken armor like up to enough where it's actually feeling good, you do need to invest in armor break in this cluster here, and also in the armor break node over here for cruel methods. So we get a lot more armor break and fizz damage. A few other things, we get some attack speed down and blurred motion. The new nodes are actually really good. And we did invest into Made to Last. Now, obviously with Hulking Form on the Titan Ascendancy, which we're obviously using because it's totally OP, we've just basically abused all these small nodes. We do tons of damage. And then finally, we're also invested into Tempered Defense, which is quite strong, and then Goring. So basically, all up, we get to like 68% estimated elemental damage reduction from armor, and then that claws up to even higher levels. And we're probably going to throttle this up to as close to 90% as I possibly can. Obviously, there's a lot of room to move with gear. Gear is nowhere near perfect. I do have a really good stave that I managed to craft. But yeah, my gear has a lot to be desired at the end of the day. So that's what we're going to be looking at. There's a few other things that obviously my gem levels are really low. So I've only got level 16 gems in here. I don't even have like anything where close to what I need. Few questions. Mana sustain, not really a massive issue. The changes with the 25% make it pretty pliable. And the other big thing here is attributes. I'm not sort of struggling for attributes. I'm able to balance it on the wire. And we still have to like move down into here, pick up these authority nodes and crushing judgment and stuff. So there's still a fair bit to go in getting level, and we're only like level 77. So we've, you can get to mid 95s pretty easily now. So we have like, what's that, 18 more levels to go before we sort of cap out. So we have a lot of upgrades and a lot of scaling. Basically skill-wise, I'm at 5 links, which drop pretty easily throughout the campaign now. Do I use Staggering Palm? Not really. It's there, like it does a little bit of extra work there, but it doesn't really do much. But as an overall, this build has been one of the most fun builds I've played in Path of Exile 2. To be honest with you, this is probably the most powerful build I've played in Path of Exile 2. And my Incendiary Shot build was quite strong. But yeah, if you're going to scale up damage, Armor Break and Stun is the way to go on the Titan. A few other synergies here, which we'll talk through later on, is just like heavy stun, procking. We get 25% of physical damage, extra fire damage, close quarters combat, because we get the buff from Hulking Form, just amps that up. AoE gets amped up. Basically, Hulking Form is just the most insane ascendancy point in the entire game. And quite frankly, Warrior, I would argue, is still one of the best ascendancies in the game, if you know how to play it. But definitely, yeah, this build has been a lot of fun. Anyway, let's get into the gearing and talk about that, and then the gem setups and the POB and all the rest of it. Okay, so for gear setup, pretty much helm, we're just going for, we've got to stack some intelligence somewhere on the gear. So we managed to get it on helm. I did get a very high armor helm, and I have armor also applies to elemental damage, which is really important. That's what makes this so sustainable. Life, overall armor, any resistances you can cram on. My weapon, you want to have high fizz damage. You want plus levels. Now, I actually used desecrated crafting. You can see the T2 on there to do this. And that was like the most efficient way to get my weapon to where it needs to be. I really lucked out. You will need leech physical damage as mana as well, because we do a huge amount of fizz damage. So yeah, basically you want to get this as high as possible. It's going to be very hard to upgrade this stave, because this stave is a very expensive crafted stave. Chest piece, same deal. I want a spirit roll on here for about 51 spirit, even though we're not fully reserved right now. Any other resistances and life, and overall we want this to be like a really heavy set armor chest piece. So we're going to have to upgrade this further. Then we want a solar amulet. Again, we want the extra spirit, but we also want rarity where we can find it and any extra armor and resistances. My build is currently lacking in chaos res, so all these things will need to change. Rings, same deal. Resistances, if you can get life per enemy killed's really good and any flat life. And then the same for the second ring, which is resistances. I have extra leech, rarity, things like that. So you just want to focus on closing the gap on your reses with your rings and amulet as much as possible. Gloves, same deal. We've got more armor also applies to elemental damage. Dexterity to get us over the minimum cap so we can run all of our skills. And then basically any other fire damage to attacks is really effective, or fizz damage to attacks, or melee skill gem levels as well. That's really good to add, and a lot of armor. Belt, my belt is very deficient, so this will be something that I'll be looking at upgrading. And obviously Trample Toes, because Trample Toes is the best boots in the game. Don't fight me over it, it's just fact. So to explain better, overkill damage then proliferates with our Herald of Ash, and that means like the additional damage that it would do to enemies then overlaps to the next enemy and then just does increased damage, which then breaks armor, which then blows everything up on the screen that you could see in the B-roll. Now we did have a Nagamu's Chosen drop, so that's easy rage, Amethyst Charm, and also Silver Charm because I don't like being slowed down. But that's basically it for the gear. It's very simple to gear this. You could play this in SSF, to be honest with you. Okay, gem setup. So in our main quarterstaff, we just have like Armor Explode, Armor Break, 3 Life Leech, and Magnified Effect. This is like a last resort. You can do whatever you want with this, but it's quite high damage. We don't use the mace. We only use that for our Hammer of the Gods. Then with Windblast on our 5 link, we have Armor Explode, Armor Break 3, Rapid Attacks 2, and Heft. Do not upgrade Rapid Attacks 3. You might get 35% attack speed, but a 50% reduction to damage is really, really bad. Then our Hammer of the Gods, which now automatically just switches to it, so there's no like switch time between weapons. So running dual weapon setups is just lucrative as all hell now. Fist Award 2, we want Heft, we want Exploit Weakness. So basically, we want to break the enemy's armor before we actually drop this on them, and it'll do a ton more damage. And then basically, I run this Sigzg, I think it is. But it hits from it a crushing blows against ignited and fully broken enemies. It just does increased damage against heavily stunned and armor broken enemies. So at this stage, it sort of seems like it works really well. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's actually pretty good. And it also intimidates enemies as well. Then for our like main damage, big damage dealer, we use Vaulting Impacts. And then we're going to run Rapid Attack 2, Fist of War 2, Exploit Weakness, same deal. This isn't going to break armor. This is going to consume the broken armor, which is more effective and you do a lot of damage that way. And then obviously Heft, and I haven't figured out the 6th socket just yet, but that'll be in the next build update. Herald of Ash, Magnified Effect, and Fire Mastery. Wind Dancer, we have Armor Break 2, Life Leech 3. So basically, this does Overleech, so we don't need to get Overleech on the tree because we can just socket it into Wind Dancer. And because we take a lot of punishment, it just continues to leech. And this does quite a lot of damage. So basically, we get like 4,000 to 5,000 damage just off of this alone. That's not accounting for all the armor break and everything else. So then we run Armor Explode, and we also run Blind. Scavenge Plating, you're going to want to run Vitality 2 and Physical Mastery 1, so you get that +1. Staggering Palm, again, I don't really use it, but you can if you want, but I basically use Rapid Attacks, Multi-Shot, and Armor Break. And then finally, Time of Need is just Compressed Duration, which just gives you less skill effect duration. And I've got this turned off right now because if I had it on, it would be very annoying to listen to. Okay, so for the tree, ascendancy-wise, you're first going to ascend into Crushing Blows, and then when you get your second ascendancy, you want to respec that back and take Colossal Capacity and Hulking Form, and this is going to amp up your damage. Now, I haven't done my third and my fourth. My third ascendancy is probably going to be Crushing Blows, and my fourth may also be Surprising Strength, or I may actually go with stacking more armor, and then go Stone Skin. I haven't fully decided yet, but 50% more armor from equipped body armor seems very, very strong. Basically, I made some changes from the initial tree. So I start in the damage side. I did go down and I got Relentless. So you want to go to Reverberating Impacts first and Smash, and then go straight to Burning Strikes. And then you also want to come down and get Sturdy Metal all the way down into Devastation. And then you want to get Cruel Methods and Blurred Motion. For a period, I did have mass rejuvenation when I was leveling up, and then I took this back because I no longer needed it when armor started to take its form. Then I come down and grab Singular Purpose into Beef. I did luck out and get a Time Lost Ruby, which is great, but it's not a necessary thing that you need. And then I get Breaking Blows into Honorless. We come back down and we grab Crushing Verdict, and then we want all these armor break nodes here up until damage versus broken armored enemies. So you don't need Irreparable, that's a wasted node. Then we're going to come up and grab Made to Last, and we want to take all armor nodes. We don't want the Rejuvenation node, it's useless. And then we go up, we grab Overheating Blow, Fulmination. Now, you could choose to go into Blood Magic. I have enough Leech that I don't need it, but if you need it, by all means, go crazy. And then we want In Your Face and Primal Growth. Then we want to come back down, and we want to continue down and pick up Tempered Defense. We want to get Goring, so we get Leech. And then we're going to take Smoke Inhalation and Incendiary. And we'll likely go up and pick up Authority and Crushing Judgment at that point. I haven't got an Anoint on the build yet, so that's something that I've got to do. And maybe Anointing Momentum could be really good, or Shockproof, something like that. I haven't figured that out yet, but that's all just things that we're going to have to work through in the next few levels. And that's it for the build. It's actually quite a straightforward and easy build at the end of the day. It's been a lot of fun to level up. I actually have some ideas of doing like a armor break bow build next, if you guys want to see that. Otherwise, I want to do a witch hunter as well, but armor is pretty not bad now. It's not like perfect, but it's pretty good. Coupled with a shield, you'll basically be able to make auto bombers a thing, which actually is probably going to be my next build because I'm lazy. But yeah, if you like this video, if this is helpful, don't forget to like and sub to this and the Twitch. And also bear in mind too, the POB will be in the description for you to follow, and the Mobalytics guide, the first guide link is up, but I just need to update it a bit more. So that'll just continue to progress over time. But anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys later and have a good one.